Welcome to BOLO, episode 4. We have made it this far, so far in this segment, which is so awesome. We have so much content to break down here on basically keeping you on the lookout for becoming the next victim of a scam here in NEPA and an extended audience all throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Gianna Galli, morning news anchor here at 2822 News, joined by Trooper Anthony Petrosky with the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you for being here
it's always good to be
It's
back.
a pleasure
Yes.
to meet up for this.
Yes, definitely.
So I want to talk about on episode 4 a lot of breaking down our biggest scams that we have seen in the year 2025 as we reach that new year mark. We've had some old, some new, and you would probably, admit that we see these scams pop up every year. Not that there's necessarily this big increase in 2025,
Right.
but some become, I guess you could say, more apparent.
Yes.
Throughout different seasons of the year. Like I said, some old, some new. So let's, dive right in. So I want to pull up some graphics first, which Joe's going to help us out with here. Our big one, earlier in the year that we talked a lot about here at 2822 News was skimmers, fishers, our EBT cards.
Yes.
So let's get into this. Maybe people following up recently with their holiday shopping. Maybe we're going to be returning some gifts heading into the new year after you open them up on Christmas Day. What do we need to be looking out for? And really, what have we seen this year, in this skimming situation when it comes to scams?
Yeah, so skimming devices have become, unfortunately, very popular. Now, it's important to start off with saying that it's a felony just to possess a skimming device because there's no legitimate purpose for it.
Mm-hmm.
So even just having it on your person is a felony arrest if law enforcement comes in contact with you. Basically,
Which is very accessible, right?
it is.
You can buy
And
these
so
easily.
you can buy these, yes. Again, they're illegal to have, so they're illegal to sell, but unfortunately, it doesn't stop people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can learn how to produce them on YouTube. You can search videos and find out how to make one, which is not that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But the advancement in them is very easy, and it actually helps these criminals because they use Bluetooth technology. So once you put it on the gas pump or the ATM machine, you don't even have to go back and get it. See, the old ones, you'd have to actually open up the gas pump.
Okay.
You'd have to put it inside, and then you have to go back and get it and hook it up to your computer. So now you could extract all of the credit card information. Now, using Bluetooth technology, as long as you're sitting within 30 feet of that device, the person who put it on can have all the information sent right to them. So basically how it works is they'll go and they will make a card reader that looks exactly like one at a specific gas pump. So if you do research online, you could find out certain gas stations, what their gas pumps actually look like. And then they could design it to put it on a specific
And, like,
company's
replicate
gas
that,
pump. Yes,
basically.
replicate
Okay.
it. They don't want it to look different. They want them to look exactly like the normal card reader on the gas pump. So they'll design it, and they'll go there like they're getting gas, and they'll cup it in their hand, and they'll pretend like they're going to put their card in, and they'll insert the card reader over the existing card reader. So now the skimming device is over the actual card reader. And if somebody doesn't pick up on this,
So you would never even
you
know.
would never even know. And so how it works is then if you go and you pay using a credit card and you insert your credit card, the gas pump is going to read your credit card and the skimming device is going to read it. So automatically that's going to send it wirelessly to the person sitting there in the parking lot. They could be sitting there with their laptop, their cell phone, and they have your credit card information before you even started pumping gas.
Wow.
And they could be online making purchases, which, that's kind of scary because it happens so quick. And so how do we find out if there's a skimming device? Well, there's many ways. Number one is before you insert your credit card, if you insert your credit card, all right, a lot of people do. Tap to pay is the best way. We're going to talk about that shortly. But if you insert your credit card, inspect the reader before you put your credit card in.
You maybe
Take
feel
a
it
look.
out a little
Yes.
bit. Okay.
The biggest thing is these are put on using some sort of either two-sided sticky tape or
Okay.
glue. So if you give it a good wiggle, if you move it around a little bit and it moves, that's probably a skimming device. And that's the telltale sign that there's a skimming device on there. So inspect it, kind of move it around a little bit. If it moves, if a card reader pops off, don't use it. Tell an attendant because then they're going to want to call law enforcement. All these gas stations, they have cameras. They have video surveillance, so we'll be able to take a look at it and find out when it was put on, hopefully get a person description or a vehicle description, and then make an arrest. But to avoid all of that, because it could be tricky, right? To avoid all of that, tap to pay is the best way to pay right now. It's the safest way. And all that is holding your credit card up against the card reader. Now, are there skimming devices for tap to pay? Yes.
Of course. It's
Of
like
course
there's
there
never
are.
Of
Right?
course.
And this has been safe for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, now thankfully in northeastern PA, law enforcement, we haven't come in contact with them yet for tap to pay. But in
That's a
other
good thing.
parts of the country, they are around. And basically, it's a sticker.
Okay.
The tap to pay pad is like flat. It's usually like hard plastic. There's lots of scratches on it. Okay, and that's how you tell if it's been used a lot. The sticker would go directly over that.
Okay.
So the way to tell without damaging the gas pump, please don't say Trip Petrowski said it damages gas pumps, okay? Without damaging the gas pump.
You didn't give this permission.
Yeah,
but-
no, not permission, okay? Without damaging it, what you want to do is kind of like see if you can peel it off. If it looks like a sticker, try with your nail a little bit. If something peels off on the tap to pay pad, then don't use it. If it doesn't, and it's all scratched up and it looks weathered, that's good to use. And if there is a skimming device on the card reader and you use tap to pay, that skimming device will not pick up your credit card. So that's why we say that's the safest way to pay. Now, unfortunately, there's been in-store skimming devices put on card readers. And again, these are card readers that you have to insert your credit card. So if you can, use tap to pay. But, if you're inserting a credit card in a store, you always want to take a look at it. Again, without damaging it, play around with the card reader a little bit. See if you can lift up the keypad. Because basically it's the same thing. So the in-store skimming devices are going to be put directly over the normal card reader. So new numbers, a new number pad, a new swipe reader, it's going to look pretty new. So take a look at it. The best thing is from the bottom of it, if you could like peel it up, again, without damaging it. All right, it's very important. If you could peel it up a little bit, then that might be an in-store skimming device. Inspect it. If you can use tap to pay, that's the best way to pay.
Okay. And you
the
said,
best
like
way.
you said, tell an attendant if this happens. You see
Yes.
something that looks a little off.
Yes.
Going to the gas pump, in-store checkout, something we do every single day. We've
Yes.
seen them, in our big retail stores, to our local businesses. So you want to make sure that you're on the lookout for that, no matter where you are, whether it's like, holiday season or not. And that leads me to our EBT cards. We've seen some scamming with this going on. I guess walk me through the difference here. Is there a difference?
So not so much.
Is there anything else I don't know if these people become a little bit more, our EBT, card users become a little bit more vulnerable, or if you think this is like anybody.
Yeah, so basically this is anybody, right? So the way the skimming devices work is they're primarily put on gas pumps, ATM machines. Now, when I say ATM machines, not ones inside banks, like standalone ATM machines, right? So if you ever come across, like you need cash and you come across an ATM machine that's maybe like has steel chain around it to a telephone pole, you might not want to use that one, okay? We're talking about ones in banks. They're usually the safe ones. But if it's outside of an establishment, that's the one where typically we're going to see skimming devices on. Before the skimming devices got very popular, there were handheld skimming devices that could read your credit card. So, if a gentleman has his wallet in his back pocket, you can walk up to their back pocket, hold this card reader up against their wallet without removing it, and it would virtually extract the credit card information. We don't see that so much anymore because that was such a problem. These companies came out with what's called RFID protection. So it would be a wallet that's protected with RFID, and that would block any of these card readers that would be able to read through the wallets. So that's kind of common now. We don't see that so much anymore. What we see are the skimming devices. That seems to be most popular because, again, the old skimming devices, you would have to find a way to open up these gas pumps. Legitimately open it up, which there's security seals wherever these doors meet. Right, there is. But if you get one of these keys, it will open up a gas pump. Or if people are good at picking locks, things like that, and you would have to put this skimming device in, and then you'd have to go back and take it out. It's not that difficult anymore. Yeah. It's very easy now because they could put it on and they never have to go back and get it. If they want to, they can. So unfortunately, the technology makes it easier. That's primarily what we see. So, just be cognizant before you insert that card. And obviously, with any type of online payments, if a website gets compromised, your credit card could easily be compromised. That happens quite frequently. You just close your card out and get a new one.
Okay. And worst comes to worst, use cash.
Yeah, we'll go old school and use some cash. It's It's kind of funny that we're
That
talking
one you
about that,
can't
but yeah, I mean, you
when you
can't
can't
really
get
get
too scammed
scammed
on there,
unless you have
so.
counterfeit,
Yeah,
which does happen, which does
Yep.
happen, but not so much anymore. It's honestly easier to use these skimming devices to get somebody's credit card because now they can make online purchases. They could get it sent to, somewhere other than their residence and go and pick it up when they get the notification that it was delivered. Technology is good. But in the wrong hands, it could be bad.
Absolutely. It could be dangerous, just like
Yes.
anything, right? Presents its
Correct.
challenges.
Yeah.
All right, a big one to look out for in 2025, but maybe keep in mind for 2026 going
Definitely.
into the new year.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch, gears here a little bit and talk about solicitations. I know I brought this up to you recently, and we saw this with a couple different police departments here in the area, but
Right.
not just that. We get a lot of this through the mail. People will see this come through their mailboxes, but a recent situation this year that happened was with a regionalized police department here in the area. And basically, to sum up, long story short here, they were getting people calling in their community saying, hey, I received this letter in the mail that's asking for money from state police, to help out different police officers across the country. And something that was a warning and a signal to
Right.
them that this was not coming from an actual organization was the fact that they had their department name wrong. But if you're, somebody who may not be looking at all the details, when getting a letter like that through the mail, it might be something you miss. So what's something that, you do get a paper in the mail that's asking for money. Maybe it's coming from, a prolific organization,
Right.
like a police department,
Sure, yeah.
a bigger organization. What should we keep in mind about?
So that's usually what these scammers will do is use a big name, right? Because it gets a person's attention. And unfortunately, when we see police-related scams, it's usually after maybe a police-involved shooting where a police officer or trooper was shot or hurt. Because usually these scammers realize that's going to pull on people's heartstrings. People out there support the police and they want to support us. So let me donate to this. You have to be aware that most police departments, now I can only speak for the one I work for, the Pennsylvania State Police, we do not solicit. We do not solicit no matter what. We don't ask the public for money. We don't. We have funding. We don't ask. And most police departments nowadays, unless they're having some sort of fundraiser, they don't solicit either. Now, when you get these letters, a big thing to look for is things like you mentioned. The name was spelled wrong. Like, what high profile?
And the basic information.
Right?
I mean, if anything, you're going to get right.
Yes, you're not going to mess that up. Every letter I've seen that people give to me at my presentations and they want me to take a look at, there's a spelling error. Or, there's commas wrong, or, apostrophes are wrong. Like simple stuff that shouldn't be wrong. And if it's coming from a big business, a big time company, that stuff should not be wrong.
That is truthfully looking for a proper donation.
Right.
Exactly.
And honestly, these things you get in the mail, they're going to all sound too good to be true. Like I keep thinking, every time I think about these, I think about the one gentleman gave me this letter that said he won, it was $500,000.
Wow.
He only had to pay $8,000 in tax, right? And he won this through the lottery. And I said to him, do you play the lottery? He said, no. I said, okay. But I'm looking at the letter, right? And on the bottom of the letter, it said sponsored by Walmart, Rite Aid, Home Depot, Lowe's, like all these huge business names.
Huge
And
retailers.
a simple search says they don't sponsor this lottery company because the lottery company didn't exist. It's easy to come up with a title, especially nowadays with AI. And you say, create me a lottery letter that says a person won this amount of money. It's going to look good. But if you don't play the lottery, if it sounds too good to be true, if you won $500,000 and you just have to pay $8,000 in tax, that's too good to be true. It's entirely good to be true. Take a look at it. And before you do anything, I always tell people this, show somebody else.
Yeah.
Get another set of eyes on it. My neighbors do this to me all the time, and I'm glad that they do. Hey, I got this text. I got this letter. Will you take a look at it? Yeah, of course. And then when somebody else takes a look at it and they point something out, say, yeah, you know what, that didn't look right to me. Sometimes it just takes another set of eyes to look at it, another mind to say, wait a second, this sounds way too good to be true. And then you start realizing, yes, this is too good to be true, and I'm going to throw it in the trash because that's where it belongs.
And you're the guy to ask, and that's what you should do too. A lot of times it's just making that quick research and call the department. If you get it, it's about it. I'm sure they can tell you right away, yes, we're asking for this. No, we're not.
Definitely.
All right, well, people impersonating police officers. More on BOLO when we come back after the break. Welcome back to episode 4 of BOLO here, 2822 News. Gianna Gali joined by Trooper Petrosky once again today. We're talking about 2025 biggest scams of the year that we've seen, maybe something to look out for going into the new year in 2026. So after the break, we are going to talk about right now police impersonations. So something that, I have a personal experience with. I'm going to spare everybody the details here, but Trooper, let's talk about something that's a lot more common than we would like it to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, this does happen. And, people always say, well, how do they get your uniforms, this and that? And that's not even the case, right? And so if we get new uniforms, right, in the Pennsylvania State Police, let's say I get a hole in this uniform or something, and I don't just throw it away. We destroy them. So like our uniforms are unique. You can't go on eBay and buy these, right? So we destroy them. We take the patches off of them because in the wrong hands, somebody could put this on and try pulling cars over. So it's not like they need the uniform. They could buy lights to put in their car, which to have red and blue lights is illegal. Okay, only emergency responders are supposed to have those. But there are unmarked cars out there that are legitimate police cars, right? We still have them. Pennsylvania State Police has them. Municipal police have them. They're not really undercover cars because you can tell they're police cars, but at nighttime you really can't. And they're equipped with lights. So we do have unmarked cars, okay? But talking about, let's say you do get pulled over and it doesn't look like a police car. Maybe you're not sure, and it could be confusing because some of these cars at night, you can't really see the light bars on them, the markings, all of the stickers, things like that. And a lot of them do look like normal vehicles now. We have Dodge Durangos, we have Chevy Tahoes. They look like the vehicles you have, unless you see the markings on them. So let's say you get pulled over and you can't tell if it's a legitimate police car or not. It's late at night. What we recommend is to pull over in a well-lit area and an area that has people around, okay? Now, again, this is if you're not sure. If it's a marked car and you could clearly tell, you should pull over immediately. But if you're unsure, and people say, well, if I keep driving, are they going to call that in as a pursuit? What we recommend is put your four-ways on, your hazard lights on. That's letting the police officer know that you're
aware.
you're recognizing that they're pulling you over, okay? And get to a well-lit area. Now, you cannot drive for 5 to 10 minutes. I'm saying if you're on one end of the street and down the road is a gas station, okay? Other than that, it could get called in as a pursuit, okay? So you can't let this go for a long time. Put your four-ways on, pull over in a well-lit area. When the police officer approaches, take a look at what they're wearing. If they're wearing jeans, if they're wearing clothes that doesn't look like a police officer, if they don't have a badge or an ID. And if you look at my uniform, we don't wear badges. The Pennsylvania State Police, we don't wear badges. We have them, but we don't wear them. But this uniform is unique to us. Ask for their badge number, their employee ID number. If they can't provide this, then your next call is 911. Now, if you're really unsure and you pull over and the person is in their vehicle for a while, you can call 911 and say, I'm on this road in this municipality. I'm being pulled over. I'm not sure if it's a legitimate police officer. And they will be able to verify because when we as law enforcement make a traffic stop, we're required to call it in to our dispatchers.
So it'll be there.
Yes. Now, municipal police use the 911 centers. They use their dispatchers. The Pennsylvania State Police, we have our own dispatchers at our barracks that we work out of. So if 911 says, well, I don't have a municipal police officer on a traffic stop there, let me check with PSP. And then they will call the barracks that has jurisdiction with where your traffic stop is being at. And they'll be able to verify for you. If it is not a police officer, if they're saying things to you that are off the wall and you know they're not a police officer, call 911 and make it known. I'm calling 911. Make it known. Be loud. Use your Bluetooth speaker in your phone so they could hear you calling 911. And more than likely, they're going to leave. Okay? And then they will dispatch, 911 will dispatch an actual police officer to your location. If they are there and they are a police impersonator, we will arrest them. If they leave, that's a good thing because we don't want anybody to be in any sort of danger or feel threatened. We will ask for a good description. So try to get a good description of the vehicle, of this person who pulled you over, what they were wearing, what they look like, the best you possibly can. If you don't get anything else, try to get the license plate, which is the vehicle registration, because that tells us who owns that vehicle, and that's a good start. That's a good start for us. Now, a lot of people have their own in-dash car cameras, and now we use them as law enforcement.
Yeah.
But you could buy them in the private sector now. They're very cheap.
And they're cheap. I
expensive.
was going to say they're very cheap.
And they work great. Yeah. We've seen that over the past 2 to 3 years in law enforcement where a third-party bystander says, hey, I wasn't involved in this crash, but I have it on my dash cam. And now we could watch and see what happened. So something good to look into if, this is something that is in the back of your mind. Have one of these dash cams. And if you have one of them and you get pulled over, if it only records outwards, just turn that. And now it's going to record that interaction. So it's just another way to protect somebody. But if you're ever unsure, just call 911, plain and simple.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's something where it's a fearful moment. It's not.
It is.
It's not this scam through a phone call. It's something in person, and it could spark that emotional reaction, like your heart rate goes up. In the moment, you might not be thinking clearly, but you're right. If anything, try to get the license plate. Try to get some kind of description.
Right.
That if you do, just get out of the situation, and maybe in that moment you couldn't really address things or make that call to 911. You can once you do feel safe.
Yes, because, the last thing we want is you sitting in your car and this is a police impersonator. It's not a legitimate police officer. And now all of a sudden they're telling you need to step out of the vehicle. Yeah. Well, now is when it could get a little dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we don't want that to happen. So then you have to make your move. Say, I'm calling 911 right now. Right? Mm-hmm. If you don't know, I'm calling 911. This is why we say get into a well-lit area where there's people around. Be loud. Make noise. Right? If you're in a dangerous situation, where you feel threatened, you feel scared, be loud, draw attention. Because now it's not just you and this person, this impersonator. Now there's other people. You pull in the parking lot of a gas station or a store and there's people in there and they hear this, they're going to be looking. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on that impersonator and he's going to want to get out of there. Yeah. Yep. So again, be loud, call 911, don't hesitate. It's our job to look into these types of things.
Yep, that's what you're here for. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, our last topic here on episode 4, we want to talk about a little ways away, Valentine's Day, but the dating apps, our computer scams, maybe more of that relationship type of situation that you have a certain name for that I never even knew existed.
Yes. And so I didn't come up with this name.
Yeah, tell us this, that these scams have become known for.
Yeah, so these dating apps, they're very popular now. And it's a lot of individuals that use the dating apps are seniors. Mm-hmm. They're senior citizens. And they're looking for companionship. And the scammers know this. Again, just when there's an opportunity, the scammers will be there. Mm-hmm. And they know this, so they will go on, they will create a fake profile.
Okay.
And they will scam people out. And what we call this is the sweetheart swindle. Again, I cannot take credit for that name. Doing research into these types of scams for my presentation and things like that, this is what it's called, sweetheart swindle. Because they will use what's called the grooming technique on you. So they will make common conversation with you. How was your day? And every single day you'll have these talks. And then all of a sudden you won't talk to them for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, I'm sorry, I lost my job. I'm trying to make ends meet. Is there any way you can help me out? And you feel this connection. Because for weeks you were having good conversations. You look forward to talking to this person. And now you're like, well, yeah, I guess I should help them out. And now you send money. And then it just starts, the snowball effect. And now $10,000, $20,000 later, you never hear from this person again. It's very easy to create a profile on any sort of social media or dating
anymore,
app.
Right? Yeah.
So easy.
Absolutely.
You could take a picture off the internet and say, this is me.
Yep.
So if you're talking to what you believe to be a 65-year-old man, and he thinks he's talking to a 65-year-old woman, it's easy to find a picture that would make you look like a 65-year-old woman, and now they think that they're talking to you. So again, be careful. Understand that these types of people are out there, these scammers, they use these dating apps. So I'm not saying don't use dating apps. What I'm saying is be aware that if you're having these great conversations and you think you're connecting with this person, even though you've never met them, you've never had a video call with them, and all of a sudden they're telling you how bad their life is and they need money. That's a scam 100%. So be careful, keep your guard up, and just move on and find somebody else that's out there for you.
That's a real person too.
Yes.
And something also to think about in that situation is trust your gut. I mean, just if something feels off, you have an intuition for a reason, listen to it. It's the most powerful thing about us sometimes.
And, people always say, well, I was embarrassed. But weigh your options. Yeah. Is it more embarrassing to have a conversation with somebody like a neighbor or a friend, family member, and say, hey, I'm talking to this person, I'm getting this bad feeling? Mm-hmm. Or is it more embarrassing to talk after the fact and say, and I gave them $10,000.
Yeah.
So it might be a little embarrassing, but it's a lot better to find out earlier than later, and when you lost money that you're not going to get back.
Absolutely. Try
Yeah.
to get ahead of that.
Yes.
And before we go, bringing us to more on that point, let's look at some quick tips and a reminder that we've talked about through previous episodes here on BOLO, just looking out for what you should do. So obviously, if you think you're getting scammed, you feel like you might be getting scammed, check that identity, verify whatever it is you're getting, whether it's something in the mail, something over the computer, a phone call, that person, like Trooper Petrosky keeps saying, ask somebody else,
Yes.
if you're unsure.
Or Google the phone number that you're getting these calls from. Or if you get an email or a letter, take a picture of it and do a Google image search. Because if it's a letter in the mail and it's a scam, you're not the only one who got that.
Okay.
And somebody's going to post online and it's going to come up in your search.
And then, that's a telltale too.
Yes.
We have don't fall for quick money. Obviously there's a lot that sounds too good to be true. And
Yes.
if it feels like it is, it probably is. Hang up and report. I have next that basically, you get that call, like we've said before, you hear that pin drop that we've
Yes.
talked about
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
It's almost your immediate sign something's not right.
I always say when you
know?
hear that sound,
Yeah.
hang the phone up.
Hang the phone up.
Yeah.
Hang the phone up. And, always trust your gut feeling, like we said.
Yes.
All right. We will see you for episode 5 of BOLO. Gianna Gali here, 2822 News, joined by Trooper Petrosky. Thanks for joining us.